Good morning. And welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Society. We are grateful to gather on this beautiful morning, both in person and online, for a time of inspiration, reflection, and connection. Whether you join us with joy in your heart, weighted with burdens, or searching for meaningful connections, we are glad that you are here. I'm the Reverend Diana Smith, the minister of the Unitarian Universalist Society, and my pronouns are she and her. I'm a somewhat tall, white woman in my mid-40s with short, curly, white and brown hair, purple glasses, with a purple dress and a very colorful stole, standing in UUS's pulpit at the front of our sanctuary. Our sanctuary is filling with people of many ages. If you're outside, we invite you to come on in. Through the window walls of our sanctuary, we connect to the outdoors, where it is one of the very first days of fall. And we can notice the changing of the seasons. As we gather, we give thanks for this land and all who have cared for it over the centuries, particularly the Kickapoo, the Iowa, the Sauk, and the Meskwaki, and the Oceti-Sakowin nations. As people of many ages, genders, races, sexual orientations, classes, abilities, and health statuses, we know how important it is to come together as a radically welcoming spiritual community. As Unitarian Universalists, our faith expresses our core value of love through how we agree to be together and to support each other. We're guided by our shared principles, sources, and values of our living religious tradition. And this morning, as we begin our stewardship campaign, we'll celebrate and explore how welcome and gratitude, our themes for September and October, intersect and influence each other as we plant seeds for the future, tend the sprouting seeds that those before us planted, and grow our congregational story. If you're newer to our congregation, we invite you to learn more about us after the service. If you're here in person, you can talk to a greeter in the atrium. And for those of you online, there is a link to our visitor form in the YouTube show notes that'll help us connect with you. And as we begin, I want to give a special welcome to our visitors from the Marshalltown UU Fellowship who are here to learn about our building. Are you here? Oh, there they are. Hi, folks. And speaking of sprouts, I hope that many of you noticed the planting and other good work that happened here yesterday during our community, our day of service. And so, as we begin, I share the words of the Reverend Julian Jamaica Soto, who writes, "Bring your broken alleluia here. Bring the large one that is beyond repair. Bring the soft one that's too small to share. Bring your broken alleluia here. I know that people have told you before, you can give, you have to get yourself together. They overstated the value of perfection by a lot, or they forgot. You are the gift. We all bring some broken things, songs and dreams and lost hopes. But here, and together, we reach within. As a community, we begin again. And from the pieces, we will build something new. There is work that only you can do. We wait for you." And so with that, let's join our voices in song. We'll be singing "What Wondrous Love," and Emily Pritchard and Xinghui Liu will be leading us.
As you are able, and open your gray hymnals to number 18, "What Wondrous Love."
What wondrous love is this, oh my soul, oh my soul, oh yes, unto the end I will sing.
Good morning. I'm Jenna Soot Montgomery. I'm a member and a worship associate, and I use the pronouns she and hers. I'm a 46-year-old white woman, and I'm wearing a blanket that masquerades as clothing because we have begun the season when you can get away with that. Thank goodness. The flame of our chalice is a beacon to those of us who seek sanctuary, who seek knowledge, who seek hope. Let its bright fire call us into deeper worship together. Please join me in saying our chalice lighting words as Vivi Rupel lights our chalice. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the wonder and mystery of this great gift. So let us now kindle the flame of our liberal religious heritage and renew our covenant of mutual love and care. Love is our doctrine, the quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, and to serve those in need. This we promise, this we covenant with life and one another. It can be so easy to numb ourselves to all that is unfolding around us. And so together each week we light an additional flame to call us toward justice and healing. This is a moment in which we can, in wide solidarity, kindle our commitment to heal the world. Today, we light this candle in preparation for Yom Kippur, the Jewish Day of Atonement, when we stand shoulder to shoulder in the humbling truth that we all have harmed, and we have much to repair. Atonement comes from the root to be in harmony. So tomorrow, on the High Holy Day, let us not give ourselves over to despair that the work of healing is too deep or too wide. Instead, let us find in our atonement a harmony with the universe that calls us into this hard work of healing, and harmony with others who will do that hard work alongside us.
Good morning. Squeaky floor. My name is Nick Kaplan, and I'm the grateful director of Lifespan Religious Education here at Unitarian Universalist Society. I'm a shorter, rounder, non-binary person, and my pronouns are they, them. I have some people who are helping me today. If you were given a white envelope, eventually work your way this way. I wanted to give you a little heads up that that's coming soon. We're talking about growing our story, and we each have an individual story, and we have an individual story, and that story has been impacted by so many people. So if you've been given a white envelope, those who have been given white envelopes, let me say it that way, are going to come and they're going to share about someone who has helped grow their story. While they are sharing, I want you to think about someone similar in your life. So we're going to have someone come forward with childhood friend, or a church and community member, a family member, which one am I missing? A favorite teacher or coach, So as they share, I want you to listen and think about those same people in your life. And here comes Paul. Thank you. So Paul has, remind me, childhood friend.
So just a couple days ago, I got a text from a friend of mine. His name's Ross. And Ross said, I'm coming to Iowa. Can we get together with you guys? And we're going to probably drive and get to see them. When I grew up, I lived in the industrial part of Los Angeles. Just a couple blocks in one direction was a General Motors assembly plant. In the other direction was a steel plant, and there was a Firestone tire plant in the other direction, and we lived in a nice little house with a lot of other working folks. And but my dad got a new job in Iowa. You know, I can go on for a long time, Nick. So, so we moved to Creston, Iowa. And instead of that little stucco California house that you can imagine, we now lived in a kind of, it seemed like a really big ranch house right across from the park, and was all green and beautiful. It was something like I'd never thought we'd ever live in a house like that. But that happiness was not enough to overcome my loneliness of being in this new town, Creston, Iowa, population 8,000, with no friends and a junior in high school at age 15. So one day I got a knock on the door, and it was this other kid who had moved from Nebraska because his dad was the high school principal, and it was Ross. And we become lifelong friends, not close enough that we see each other very much. And so we get to see him Monday.
Thank you. So maybe you had a friend like Ross who brought a little bit of beauty to your life when there wasn't much else around. Maybe they helped you find a hobby that you loved, or maybe they helped you find beauty in your own life. Hillary, go ahead and come forward. Thank you. So Hillary is going to tell us about a church or community member who affected you.
How could I rule anyone out? But I'm going to say when I first came to church, the one person that really stood out to me was Virginia Melroy. I told someone something that was troubling me, and he said, come here. And he pulled me over to Virginia's table and said, I want you to talk to this woman. And that conversation changed my life. And Virginia is still a really large presence in my life, and I love her very much.
What a tender-hearted answer. Thank you, Hillary. So, like Hillary, maybe you had a positive experience with a church member or a community member, and it helped you grow stronger or stand a little taller. It might have also been an experience in your life where you grew a little harder on the outside. And so we have a stem that we are adding to our picture. Jonah, remind me, what do you have? Family member, that's right. Jonah, go ahead and tell us about a family member who's affected you.
Yeah, so a couple of days ago, maybe it was yesterday, yeah. My parents told me that my cousin's moving to Iowa, and later that day I found out he was moving actually the house right next to us. So yeah, I've really been affected by how this changed my life, as now I'm going to be having my cousin right next door to me in, well, a couple of years, so yeah.
Thank you, Jonah. Our family members, whether they're family by birth or family in a different way, maybe chosen family or any kind of family, a person who's really close to us and has impacted maybe our foundation. They've helped us grow. I have one more envelope out there. Marcia, if you can tell us about a favorite teacher or coach who's impacted you.
Sure. I'll tell you a little bit about my first grade teacher, and her name was Bonita Birch. And I didn't find out until many years later what Bonita stood for, and she was a very beautiful woman. And even at age 6 or 7, I was an avid reader. I went to school already knowing how to read, and I was really bored in first grade. I mean, the stuff that they were giving us to read was well below what I wanted to read, and it wasn't interesting to me, and she recognized that, and she recognized it fairly early in the year, and so she encouraged me to read anything I was interested in, and she brought me all sorts of stuff, and she was the one who introduced me to the world of Greek mythology, which later became very instrumental in my belief system. So that was Mrs. Birch.
Thank you, Marcia. There are people in our lives who help us grow, who help us become who we are, and there are people who affect us in ways that we don't necessarily notice. One day, if you're feeling particularly invisible that day, like no one really sees who you are, and someone stops and holds the door for you, they saw you, and maybe they turned your whole day around because they saw you there. So people we don't know can help us grow, can nourish us. Maybe you were in a class and you were afraid to ask a question, and so you weren't going to ask it, and you were just going to go and not have your question answered. But somebody else raised their hand and asked the question you wanted to ask. They affected you. And maybe it was when you were in college and there were over 100 people in that room and you have no idea who that person was. But they affected you. There are ways in our lives where we're constantly affecting those around us. And they can help us grow into who we are. And then we're a beautiful sunflower. So, growing our stories is very important, as is the opportunity for faith development and religious education. So, if you are a child or a youth or a teacher who is heading with us to religious education, we're going to light our lantern now, and anyone who would like to go to class with us is welcome. So while Leah lights our lantern from our chalice, we'll invite the congregation to say with me, "Take the flame of our chalice so that you have our light, love, and hope with you as you explore your faith together. Children, youth, and teachers, we send with you our blessings and our love." All right, children, youth, and teachers, if you know these words or if you can read them along, please join me. We take this flame and your love with us on the journey.
All right. One other thing I want to plug about growing is that I'd like to grow the children's choir. I'd like to start a seed and see it grow. So if you see these QR codes out on the tables, you can scan it and sign up for children's choir. It's also probably in your email, or you can come see me. Now let's sing Be Open. Be open for something wonderful to happen. Be open to possibilities. Be open for something wonderful to happen. Be open to possibilities. Aye, aye, aye,
And now I'd like to invite us all into a time of meditation, contemplation, and prayer. As we settle into this time together, I invite you to take a few breaths. Notice how your body is sitting here in this room or wherever you are. Taking a few breaths to let yourself relax a little more into your chair. In this moment, as we breathe together, I invite you to notice, whether with your eyes or your mind's eye, with touch, the feel of wind on your skin, with scent. I invite you to sink into this space and to notice the seasons, the change that is around us. In this moment, as we breathe together, may we notice this change, the growing asters and the yellowing goldenrod turning brown, the leaves changing color. As we notice the squashes beginning to appear in the markets, the apples on the trees. May we notice what is growing from the seeds that have been planted this year, how we're gathering and sharing from abundance. As we notice the bees busily gathering the last nectar and taking it back to their hives, the squirrels running around, breaking open walnuts and carrying them back to their burrows. May we notice how all of us are preparing for what will nurture our communities in the coming months. May we notice how even those things that get left behind, the acorn in the burrow, the milkweed seeds, the little bugs burrowing into the ground, all are judiciously preparing the ground and even planting new seeds for what will come as the seasons continue to cycle. In this time, as the world turns and we remember the wonders of summer and flourishing growth. May we sink into gratitude and prepare ourselves to share ever more deeply. Amen.
Is an excerpt from Let Your Life Speak by the Quaker author Parker Palmer. Daily, I am astonished at how readily I believe that something I need is in short supply. If I hoard possessions, it is because I believe that there are not enough to go around. If I struggle with others over power, it is because I believe that power is limited. If I become jealous in a relationship, it is because I believe that when you get too much love, I will be shortchanged. The irony, often tragic, is that by embracing the scarcity assumption, we create the very scarcities we fear. If I hoard material goods, others will have too little, and I will never have enough. If I get jealous of someone I love, I am likely to drive that person away. In the human world, abundance does not happen automatically. It is created when we have the sense to choose community, to come together to celebrate and share our common store. Whether the scarce resource is money or love or power, the true law of life is that we generate more of whatever seems scarce by trusting its supply and passing it around. Authentic abundance is not found in secured stockpiles of food or cash or influence or affection, but in belonging to a community where we can give those goods to others who need them and receive them from others when we are in need. Community doesn't just create abundance, community is abundance. And if we could learn that equation from the world of nature, the human world might be transformed.
And now Liz Swanson will introduce Growing Our Story.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Liz Swanson, co-chair of the Stewardship Committee, along with Diana Miller. And I am fairly tall, although I'm shrinking. Brown hair with gray streaks, in my 70s. So, and my husband's not here today, not because he didn't want to be here, but he's representing another group on campus, so he wanted me to share that with you. In the desire to build connections, resilience, and community, the Stewardship Committee has chosen to pilot a different approach for the campaign of this year by using a variation of listening visits. At this point, some of you have received a letter with the materials for the pledge form, while the other members will receive the material with the listening visits. This pilot will have there will be one of 15 listeners visiting a randomly selected group of members from our congregation. During these prearranged visits, listeners will pose questions, will not take notes, with the persons to elicit feedback on what UUS means to you. And what do you value with UUS? At the close of the visit, 30 to 40-minute visit, the members will be given the pledge material for their personal review and consideration. The materials will include a letter from the Stewardship Committee, a realm form, and a return envelope addressed to this location. We are hoping that this new approach, or different approach, will be meaningful to all of those who are participating. Listeners will be in contact with congregational members after today's service to arrange a mutually agreed to time and location. And you may also be free, Reverend Diana said that we can meet in a private area in the church. Listeners will be asked to wear masks if they are needed during the visit. Now, some of the visitors agreed to be visitors and then realized that they were going to be out of town. So please be patient with us, and they will contact you as soon as they return to town. So the schedule for our campaign this year: on October 1st, 3 members of our congregation will be providing short testimonials on the value of UUS to them. Then on subsequent Sundays, a stewardship member will update everyone on the campaign progress. If a household can, in order to help the Board of Trustees to construct the budget for 2024, please return the pledge information to the church as close to October 15th as possible. Just as a reminder, the goal for this year is $400,000, and the committee has exciting news to share. This year, members of the congregation have contributed $20,979 to be used as a match. So the match works in 2 different ways. If you choose to increase your pledge from 2023 to 2024, there will be a dollar-for-dollar match. So, for example, if you increase your pledge by $50 of the match funds will be used to increase that amount. If you're a household that didn't happen to pledge in 2023, because you're a new member, and pledge in 2024, the total amount of your pledge will be matched dollar for dollar. We are very grateful to these households who have chosen to contribute to this matching fund. And at this time, I would like to acknowledge the Stewardship Committee. Diana, please stand. Pete Brokaw, Barb Herring, she may be one of the ones out of town. Michael Schmidt, Reverend Diana. And also, I would like the listeners that are in attendance today to please rise to be recognized. Please. We're very appreciative of everyone who has assisted us to get to this point. Another person, Sarah, are you here? Sarah was our trainer on Wednesday, and we had a great, great time. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Liz, and thank you, listeners and people who have contributed to the match and everyone who is involved in this year's stewardship campaign. As you know, running a congregation does take resources of many kinds, including financial ones. And so, a couple weeks ago, Nick Kaplan and I told the story of the church in the wilderness. Some of you may remember that. and the Cambridge Platform. That's the document that was written in 1648 that describes the basis of how what came to be called Unitarian Universalist congregations gather, as well as how congregations would support each other. It says that the foundation of our faith is that congregations are formed in ways that express the biblical commandment, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. In other words, being part of a Unitarian Universalist congregation means covenanting to be with others in the spirit of neighborly love, and to find out over and over in new ways what that means in how we live and how we co-create community. Our principle of interdependence or belonging to one another is embodied in how that original document creates congregations and how congregations relate to each other. The original creators of our congregations knew that we belong to one another, and sometimes we have trouble living that out, but that we can help each other when that happens. We can keep growing our story of how we are together. Our congregations get to help us learn how to love our neighbors as ourselves, to treat others as we hope to be treated, and even, as we might say in a more pluralistic society nowadays, to listen and learn how others hope to be treated, and to do that. Of course, it's important to reflect carefully on how we use those founding documents, principles and patterns now, because, as we know, the world has changed a lot since 1648. That church in the wilderness, those churches that came together to give us the Cambridge Platform, were composed of people who came from the same cultures, whose work and lives were similar. Where many differences were suppressed or repressed, where congregations were originally supported financially by taxes, and then by sales of pews or seats, meaning you couldn't attend unless you paid, and who were part of a class that was benefiting financially from the removal and genocide of indigenous peoples and from chattel slavery. Now, we now live in a society where many more differences are held and respected, that is more pluralistic and is trying to understand how to move beyond the horrors of the past while not forgetting them. Now we know that work is partial, and there are efforts to move in the backwards directions. But as a result of the changes, we have to reimagine how to take the good messages of old guidance while transforming them for our current times. And so we have to keep growing our story in many ways. Now, one of the remarkable things about congregations is that people come here from so many different life experiences and backgrounds with so many different needs, and we seek to create something new together. We come here as people who are learning to ask for and to give help, to listen, to share. People who are learning what belonging to each other means in a changing world, how we're transforming ourselves and our communities for new times and new needs, who are learning and supporting each other in our learning and transforming journeys. We join together in covenantal community to share and support, but also to do more than that. We seek to move beyond the bounds of how the wider world tells us to be in community. In a capitalist society, we're told that we come to a community, even a congregation, to find the things that we want, to pick and choose from menus that we're here to consume and be served. That how we give to and share with our communities is based on transactions rather than covenant, on what we get rather than on what we're seeking to create together and how we're transforming our world. But the reality is that we're growing our story together, that we come here to figure out how to belong to one another, how to widen the circles of welcome and generosity within our own hearts, both for ourselves and others within our congregations and in the wider world. We come here to grow our story, to learn to embody how we are human and connected, to do the things that make a difference in each other's lives, to create a world we all need to not simply survive, but to thrive. And so this year, in these times of change, as we're seeking to live into these ways of being together, especially in this time of emergence from pandemic life, but when we still face many pandemic struggles and aren't quite sure if we're out of it, our stewardship campaign is focused on the many ways that we're growing our story and on the many things we need and want to do to keep growing our congregational story. As we seek to do this, we're working on developing skills for bearing witness to each other and facilitating for liberation through events like Equipping for Action on October 6th and 7th, which you can register for using the flyers on bulletin boards out there or the link in the weekly email. We're also working on understanding who we are and what our congregation and community need in these times of change, and creating a congregation that is doing that. We're celebrating and co-creating our vision of ministry. Now, in a few minutes, I'm going to ask you to talk to each other again. Talking to your neighbor, hopefully a neighbor that you don't know particularly well, and to discuss a couple of questions. I'll give you one question first, and then invite each of you to share your responses to it. You're going to have about 3 minutes to discuss the first question. I'll ring the bowl. After a minute and a half, that's your signal to trade partners. Or one partner to stop talking, the other partner to start talking. That's what I mean, not trade partners. No, that's because, yeah. Anyway, so find one person you're going to talk to. You get to each talk for a minute and a half. All right. Then I'll ring the bowl and ask you a second question. You'll have another couple of minutes to discuss that question. And then I'll invite you to a time of silence, during which you can use that circle of paper that you got when you came in. If you didn't get one, then at that time you can raise your hand and an usher will bring you one. But first, I'm going to invite you to remember an emotionally and spiritually rewarding experience in this congregation. If you're new to this congregation, perhaps there's a moment today, or perhaps there's a moment at another congregation, or another moment of spiritual connection or community that drew you to be here today. I invite you to fully recall that emotionally and spiritually rewarding experience. Sit with it. Breathe it in. Let it fill your mind and heart. Enjoy it. Open to the feelings in the experience and try to feel them in your body. Letting the feelings intensify. And now finding something fresh or novel about that experience. How could it nourish you? How could it make a difference in your life? Now, if your eyes are closed, open them. Turn to your neighbor and make sure you know who you'll work with. And now, my first question for you. Recall a time, the one you just recalled or another one, in this congregation when you felt most alive, most involved, most spiritually moved or excited about the congregation, our ministry together, whatever words make the most sense to you. We are, after all, a theologically diverse congregation. If you're new to this congregation, perhaps there's a moment today, or perhaps there's a moment at another congregation or another moment of spiritual connection or community that you can draw upon. When you talk to your neighbor, describe the event. What was exciting about it? Who was involved? How did you feel? What did you do as a result of that experience? You each have a minute and a half to talk. If you're online and you have someone with you, I encourage you to talk with each other. And if you don't have anyone physically with you, you might take time to think about a few things and put them in the YouTube chat. Now you can talk to each other. That's your cue to switch who's talking. Okay, and now I'm going to ask you your second question. I hope you had a chance to both talk. So your second question is, what did you value about that experience and this congregation? What is one of the most important things that this congregation has contributed to your life? Or what is one of the most important things that Unitarian Universalism has contributed to your life? And now you'll each have a minute to talk about that. So you'll have a minute, I'll ring the bell, and then you'll switch who's talking, and then I'll ring the bell again. All right. That's your cue to switch who's talking. And that was me calling you back to this communal time. I hope you had an opportunity to share some important things. So now, in a few moments, I'm going to invite you to a short time of silence and musical meditation to reflect on what you've just shared. In a moment, while Xinghui plays, I invite you to reflect on what you want to be part of nourishing here in the coming year as we grow our stories. Now, these don't need to be new programs or projects. They can be ongoing things that you want to help nourish. And I encourage you to think about how that thing that you want to be part of nourishing fits into our vision of ministry, which we discussed at our worship service last week. If you missed that service, here are the 3 elements of our vision of ministry. One is a year of welcoming, hospitality, and homecoming. That includes sharing responsibility for welcoming and engaging visitors, making creative use of our building, encouraging more member-developed and easily accessible programming. The second element is nourishing resilience as a community, including joyful resistance to extremism, building bonds with each other and allied groups, engaging in creative conflict, deepening and respecting diverse spiritual practices, and adapting to climate change. And the third one is practicing personal care and compassion for others, which includes recognizing the effects of the pandemic and political realities, cultivating sustainable practices, practicing patience and setting realistic expectations, focusing on the positive, and resisting perfectionism. As you reflect, please write a few words about what you want to help nourish on the circle or oval of paper that you picked up when you came in. These are seeds that will help us grow our story this year. After the service, we're going to invite you to put your seed on the pieces of paper in the fellowship hall that correspond to the area of the vision of ministry that your seed fits in. If you want to write your name on your seed so that people who want to work with you on nourishing something similar can find you, that would be helpful. You'll also see the names for leads of different groups that work in areas for each element of our vision of ministry next to those sheets of paper in the fellowship hall. That's so that you can reach out to folks and help create something. If you didn't get a circle of paper, please raise your hand and an usher will come to give you one. And after you've written on your paper, please come up and put it in a basket, or ask somebody at the end of your row to come up and put it in one of the baskets for the right area of the vision of ministry. After the service, I'll be working with helpers to plant these seeds on the sheets of paper on the wall in the fellowship hall. And then we'll find out what will grow. And finally, some of you received a bright green piece of paper when you came in. This is an invitation from our pastoral care team. We're inviting everyone in this congregation, whether you're a member or a friend who hasn't yet signed the membership book, whether you're an adult or a child or a youth, whether you're here in person or whether you're online, to engage in 5 acts of care. That might be sending someone a card, calling someone, giving a ride, visiting someone, taking someone out for coffee, or bringing someone a simple meal. Some of you already filled out one of those cards at our worship service on August 27th. If you didn't, you can fill it out here today and give it to an usher or a member of the pastoral care team. We will be in touch with you or others when that type of act of care is needed. For all of who we are starts from and becomes a seed that we plant for the future. In these many ways, through how we care for each other, through the seeds that we plant and the ones we nourish, whether they were planted by us or by people who were part of this congregation years or decades before us, and through how we share our financial resources to support this congregation and the work we're doing here in the broader community, we are growing our congregation's story. So may it be. Amen. And blessed, blessed be.
UUs are thinkers and dreamers, but UU folks are also doers. One way to live out our commitment to healing the world is by collectively donating to organizations in our community who are making justice, cultivating peace, and building a more livable world for all. Our community partner agency this month is Shelter House, which provides safe shelter and helps people improve the quality of their lives as they move beyond homelessness. They operate a 70-bed shelter in addition to 4 homes and an apartment building through which they provide over 60 permanent supportive housing units. Programs and support services include housing, employment, and mental health recovery. Shelter House aims to be a voice for systemic community change through excellence in service, financial stewardship, and developing strong community partnerships. In the sanctuary, the ushers will collect the offering, or you can follow the instructions on the screen for how to give online. All cash contributions go directly to our community partner agency. In addition to assisting our community partner, you may contribute towards your pledge to our society or contribute to the congregation to provide additional support for our operating expenses. You may also contribute by check using the memo line to designate the purpose. The offering is a sign of commitment to this free congregation, which is almost completely supported by the generosity of all who join with us. As we give and receive the offering, may we be transformed by our giving, and may the world be transformed by our gifts.
In honor of Yom Kippur this week, we will be singing and playing for you Hashivenu, which translates to help us return to you, O God. Help us return to you, O God. Make our days new as in the past. Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha, Ben Ashuva, Ben Ashuva, Chadish, Chadish, Yamenu Kekedim, Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha, Ben Ashuva, Ben Ashuva, Chadish, Chadish, Yamenu Kekedim, Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha, Ben Ashuva, Ben Ashuva,
Nurturing gratitude and how we understand and express interdependence is part of how we live into our Unitarian Universalist faith. May what has been shared today help us more fully affirm our interconnection and live into love and justice. Immediately after the service, we gather in the fellowship hall and maybe outside if you're feeling courageous for conversation and community. We also invite you to help us plant these seeds onto the posters to which they belong in the fellowship hall. And you're also invited to decorate a puzzle piece and attach it to our mural in the hallway. Our discussion questions, which you may want to talk about during coffee hour, are: when you envision this congregation in 5 years, what do you hope is part of that story? And what can we do together to make that hope a reality? The Green Sanctuary team is also holding a demonstration of all electric and plug-in hybrid vehicles in the parking lot by the car charging stations and bike racks after the service. So please stop by to check out cars, bikes, and trikes. And now, to close our service, we will sing Spirit Make Us One. Please rise. Oh, sorry, Emily, you do.
Thank you. Please rise as you're able to sing Spirit Make Us One, which I think many of you are familiar with, as it was written for you in this new building. Please join me in the words for extinguishing the chalice.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. All these we carry in our hearts and in our minds until we are together again.
As you go out into the world this day and this week, may you go seeking the sprouts, nourishing the stories, and growing our future. Go in peace, love, and justice, living love ever more fully and fiercely into this world. Amen, and blessed be.
It turns on the microphone. Okay, I'm going to make you sing one more time. It's a very short song. It's called Shalom Havarim. Shalom means hello. It means goodbye. It means I wish blessings upon you for an altogether good life, good existence. And Virginia's here to help me because we're going to sing it around. But I'll sing it for you first, just so you can hear it, okay? Can I have an... Oh, sorry. Can I have an A? Oh, we have the words now. Yes. That's helpful. Farewell, my friends, farewell, my friends, shalom, shalom. Till we meet again, shalom, shalom. You can sit. I'm not going to make you stand. Would you sing it with me? This is just practice, okay? Shalom. Oh, sorry, I did it again. Farewell. Farewell, my friends, farewell, my friends, shalom, shalom. Till we meet again, shalom, shalom. This is going to be very exciting. We're going to sing it all together once. And then, middle group, you're with me. Outer groups, you're with Virginia. You start singing when Virginia starts singing. Okay? So, we're going to sing it all together once. And then, I'll sing with you and we start first, and then Virginia sings with the outsides and they start second, okay? Not sure what to do about that. I did it again. I'm going to do it every time. Okay, farewell. Farewell, my friends, farewell, my friends, shalom, shalom. Till we meet again, shalom, shalom. Farewell, my friends, farewell, my friends, shalom, shalom. Till we meet again, shalom, shalom. Again. Farewell, my friends, farewell, my friends, shalom, shalom. Till we meet again, shalom, shalom. Thank you. You did great. You did great.
Thank you.